Welcome back to my channel, Pocket Change Coins. If you're excited about finding hidden gems in your pocket change, you're in the right place. First, we're going to uncover some of the most valuable and rare US coins that could be worth a fortune. Let's dive in. We're talking about the humble 1963 D Lincoln cent. That's right, just a single penny. But not just any penny. Because one of these little copper coins, under the right circumstances, could be worth an amount that might make your jaw drop. But before we get to the incredible number, let's explore why this coin is so special. Because the story of the 1963 D Lincoln penny is more than just about money, it's about history, rarity, and the magic of being in the right place at the right time. Let's start with the basics. In 1963, the United States was in the midst of a powerful cultural and political transformation. President John F. Kennedy was in office, civil rights movements were rising, and the country was on the edge of a technological explosion that would lead to the moon landing just 6 years later. It was a time of energy, ambition, and change, and yet, among all this, the Denver Mint was doing something it had done billions of times before, striking Lincoln cents. Over 1.7 billion 1963 D pennies were produced that year. With that kind of number, it's easy to see why most people wouldn't think twice about tossing one into a jar or spending it at a gas station. But here's where it gets interesting, because even in a sea of billions, mistakes happen. Variations occur. And a tiny fraction of those coins, maybe even just a handful, end up being completely unique. In the world of coin collecting, there are three things that get collectors excited: condition, rarity, and error. And the 1963 D penny, in certain rare examples, has all three. Let's talk about condition first. When coins are newly minted, they shine with brilliance. But once they enter circulation, they begin to wear, rubbing against other coins, exposed to dirt, oils, and the rough and tumble of everyday use. That's why finding a 1963 D penny in pristine, uncirculated, mint condition is already something special. The fewer marks, the sharper the strike, the more lustrous the coin, the higher the value it can fetch from collectors. Now imagine one that's been perfectly preserved since the day it was made, stored away carefully, never spent, never touched by bare hands. Those coins get high grades, sometimes even red designations, referring to the bright coppery glow that only fresh Lincoln cents have. The highest graded examples become true collector trophies, but condition alone doesn't push a coin into legendary status. What really drives serious value are mint errors, accidents that happen during the coin's production. Maybe the coin was struck off center. Maybe it was hit by a damaged or misaligned die. Or maybe, just maybe, it was struck on the wrong metal altogether. These are called planchet errors, and when they're confirmed, the coin becomes a one-of-a-kind discovery. There are even cases of 1963 D pennies being struck with doubling, where parts of the design appear to be duplicated due to a mishap during the striking process. Doubling on words like liberty, in God we trust, or the date itself can significantly boost a coin's value, especially when combined with flawless condition. And here's where the magic happens: when a coin has a rare error, is preserved in exceptional condition, and is from a highly recognizable year and mint, like 1963 from the Denver Mint, you've got the perfect storm for something incredible. So the next time you come across an old penny, don't just pass it by. Look at it closely. Is it sharp? Is it red in color? Does anything about it seem unusual? Because just like in the stories of buried treasure, some of the rarest finds are hiding right in plain sight. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. One particular 1963 D Lincoln penny, graded at an exceptionally high level, featuring a confirmed mint error, and preserved in near-perfect condition, stunned collectors at auction. It didn't sell for a few $100s. Not even a few thousand. This tiny copper coin, once worth just 1 cent, was sold for a breathtaking $134,000. That's right. $134,000, for a single penny. And the best part? Coins like these haven't all been found yet. Some are still out there, resting in old collections, tucked away in jars, or sitting unnoticed in a box of spare change. So what are you waiting for? Go dig through those old coins. Check your penny rolls. Look for that 1963 D mark. Who knows? You might just be holding a piece of American history worth more than a brand new car, or even a house. Second rare coin, I'm talking about the 1966 Lincoln 1-cent coin. You might think, it's just a penny, right? Well, think again, because this small copper coin has a secret that could make it incredibly valuable. So, let's take a closer look and see what makes this seemingly simple coin so special. First, let's go back to 1966. It was a time of change and excitement in the United States. The country was in the middle of the civil rights movement, the Vietnam War was escalating, and there were significant cultural shifts happening everywhere. But in the world of coinage, 1966 was a year that didn't initially seem remarkable. The U.S. Mint was producing millions of Lincoln cents just like any other year. The coins were distributed widely, used in everyday transactions, and then, like so many others, they were spent, saved, or discarded. So, why does this particular year hold such value in the numismatic world? The answer lies in a fascinating phenomenon that happens in the world of coin collecting: errors and rarities. These things turn what might seem like an ordinary coin into a highly sought-after collectible. And in the case of the 1966 Lincoln penny, there is one error that makes certain versions of this coin extraordinarily valuable. Let's talk about it. While most 1966 pennies are simply mass-produced coins that are found everywhere, a few of these coins have a striking mint error that makes them stand out from the rest. These errors can happen during the coin's minting process. Sometimes, the dies used to stamp the design on the coins become damaged or misaligned, creating unique variations that are very different from the intended design. For the 1966 Lincoln cent, one of the most valuable errors is the doubled die. This happens when the die strikes the coin multiple times, causing the design to appear doubled, often seen clearly in the words like "Liberty" or "In God We Trust." But here's the kicker. These errors didn't make it into circulation in large numbers, and the ones that did are incredibly hard to find. Imagine finding a penny where the letters appear thick, doubled, and slightly out of alignment. That's no ordinary penny, that's an error coin, and it could be worth a lot of money. The higher the grade, the more desirable the coin becomes, and in perfect condition, these rarities become extremely valuable, but it doesn't stop there. It's not just the double die that makes the 1966 Lincoln cent a potential treasure. The condition of the coin also plays a massive role in its value. Most pennies, even from earlier years, were used for transactions, passed from hand to hand, and often show the wear and tear of time. But every once in a while, a coin escapes that fate and remains in pristine, uncirculated condition. If you happen to have a 1966 Lincoln penny that looks as if it just came off the press yesterday, you're already dealing with something pretty special. For collectors, the condition is graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with higher grades, like MS-65 or MS-66, being highly sought after. Coins that are in uncirculated condition are not only rare but also highly desirable, and their value can skyrocket when they're also tied to a rare minting error. That's why some of these 1966 pennies, in near-perfect condition, have become some of the most prized specimens in the world of coin collecting. Now, let's talk about how much these rare 1966 Lincoln cents are actually worth. Most 1966 pennies you come across are worth only a cent, but if you've got a mint error, especially one of those rare double die examples in high-grade condition, you could be sitting on a potential goldmine. And that's where it gets exciting. One particular 1966 Lincoln penny with the double die error and in almost flawless condition sold at an auction for an eye-popping $120,000. Yes, you heard that right. A single penny, just a simple 1966 Lincoln cent, could be worth $120,000 in the right condition with the right error. That's the beauty of coin collecting. What looks like a regular piece of pocket change can hold a lot more than you might think, especially if you've got one with a rare error or in pristine condition. So, what should you do now? Well, the first thing is to check your change. Take a moment to look through any old pennies you've got lying around in a drawer or a coin jar. Take a close look at the date, 1966, and check for any signs of doubling in the lettering or any unusual features in the design. Even if you're not sure, it's worth taking your coin to a professional grader or a coin expert who can confirm whether it's a rare variety. Finding a coin like this could change everything. You might have a simple penny that could be worth $120,000. Third expensive coin, I'm talking about the 1971 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin. At first glance, this coin might seem like nothing more than a typical penny. After all, in 1971, over 3 billion of these little coins were minted. It was just another year in the history of the Lincoln cent series, right? But as any seasoned collector knows, appearances can be deceiving. Coins from specific years, mints, and even those with rare errors, can skyrocket in value when the right conditions align. Let's take a step back and set the stage for the 1971 coinage. The year was significant for many reasons, not just in the world of coins. It marked the final year for the issuance of the 35% silver Kennedy half dollars, and the U.S. Mint was in full production mode, minting millions of coins, including the ever-popular Lincoln cents. But 1971 had something special in store for collectors, a particular set of circumstances that would make some 1971 D pennies stand out from the rest. Now, let's talk about what makes a coin like the 1971 D Lincoln cent so interesting. In a vast sea of pennies minted that year, only a small percentage of them are actually rare or valuable. So, what's the secret? The answer lies in the condition of the coin and the potential for mint errors. Let's start with the condition. Coins that are well preserved, coins that have been kept in uncirculated or near perfect condition, are far more valuable than those that show signs of wear and tear. And since the 1971 D penny was minted in such large quantities and circulated extensively, most of these pennies are found in worn or heavily circulated states. But here's where it gets exciting. If you have one that survived the test of time in nearly flawless condition, you're already looking at a coin that's worth more than face value. But it's not just about the condition. The errors are where things start to get truly fascinating. Minting errors can happen during the coin's production, and they're one of the main reasons why certain coins rise in value. For the 1971 D penny, one of the most notable errors is the double die obverse, where the date or other parts of the design appear doubled due to a misalignment during the minting process. This is one of the most sought-after errors by collectors because it's not something you see every day. Now, imagine holding a 1971 D Lincoln penny where the date is clearly doubled, where you can see the distinct separation in the numbers of the year. That's no ordinary penny. Such errors are rare, and they add a tremendous amount of value to a coin. The sharper the doubling, the more valuable the coin becomes. If the doubling is highly noticeable and the coin is in excellent condition, it could be worth far more than what you initially thought, but that's not all. In addition to the doubling error, there are other variations of the 1971 D penny that can also increase its worth. Coins struck with off-center errors or clipped planchets are another way for a 1971 D penny to stand out. These errors happen when a coin is struck off its intended center or when part of the blank metal planchet, the piece of metal used to make the coin, is missing. These kinds of errors are highly prized by collectors because they are truly one-of-a-kind pieces, and they can greatly increase the coin's market value. So, what kind of money are we talking about? Now that you're wondering just how valuable one of these coins could be, it's time for the big reveal. If you happen to find a 1971 D Lincoln cent in pristine condition, with a major mint error, like the double die obverse or an off-center strike, you could be holding on to something worth an incredible $100,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $100,000 for a single penny. Of course, not every 1971 D penny will be worth that much, but the key is knowing what to look for. If you come across a coin that fits these rare criteria, it's worth taking it to a professional coin grader or appraiser to have it authenticated. You might just have a hidden treasure in your hands. Now, before you rush off to check your coin collection or dig through your loose change, remember that the vast majority of 1971 D pennies aren't worth anywhere near that amount. However, if you happen to find one of the rare, high-grade, error-filled coins, you might just be sitting on a gold mine. So, there you have it. A seemingly ordinary penny from 1971 could, under the right circumstances, be worth a small fortune. Who would have thought that a piece of copper from over 50 years ago could be worth $100,000? Especially, we're about to dive into the world of one of the most underrated and yet highly sought-after coins in the United States, the 1973 Lincoln 1-cent coin. Now, this might seem like just another penny from the 1970s, but trust me, this little coin has an exciting story to tell, and its value might just surprise you. So stick around because this is a treasure hunt you won't want to miss. Let's take a moment to set the scene. It's 1973, Nixon is still in office, the US is in the midst of the Cold War, and the country is dealing with significant political and economic changes. In the world of coinage, however, things were relatively stable. The US Mint was still cranking out Lincoln cents in high numbers, and in 1973, over 4 billion of these pennies were produced. The 1973 D penny, minted in Denver, was one of the most common coins in circulation that year. But as we know in the world of numismatics, rarity and value are often not immediately obvious, especially with coins that were produced in such large quantities. So, why is the 1973 D Lincoln penny so special? Well, it's not necessarily the coin itself that's valuable, it's the rare minting errors and high-quality condition that elevate this coin's worth. As with any collectible item, there are certain rare variations that are worth far more than their face value. And if you're lucky enough to find one of these rare examples, you might just be holding onto a small fortune. One of the most notable errors associated with the 1973 D penny is the double die obverse. This minting error occurs when the die that strikes the coin is misaligned, leading to the design being stamped twice on the coin. The result? A coin with a doubled image of Abraham Lincoln, the date, and the inscriptions like "Liberty" or "In God We Trust." These coins are highly prized by collectors because the doubling effect is not only visually interesting but also makes them incredibly unique. If you happen to find a 1973 D penny with the double die obverse error, you've got something truly special on your hands. The value of these coins can vary depending on the severity of the doubling, but a well-preserved example could fetch a pretty penny, pun intended. A high-quality example of a 1973 D double die could easily be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, but that's not where the story ends. Another reason the 1973 D penny is so coveted is its condition. Most coins that are over 50 years old have experienced some wear and tear, scratches, dents, and discoloration from years of circulation. But coins that have been carefully stored, kept away from the harsh elements, and shielded from heavy use can survive in near-mint condition. And in the world of rare coins, condition is king. Coins that are graded MS65 or higher, meaning mint state, with minimal wear, are highly sought after and command much higher prices than coins that show signs of damage or age. If you have a 1973 D Lincoln penny that looks like it just came off the minting press, it's likely worth a lot more than you think, but there's something else you need to keep in mind. Even though the 1973 D penny was minted in high numbers, the coins that make it to the market today are often the result of years of careful hoarding, preservation, or, in some cases, sheer luck. Whether it's a double die error or simply a coin in pristine condition, these rare finds are getting harder and harder to come by, making them even more valuable to collectors as time passes. So, what are we talking about in terms of actual dollar amounts? Well, as much as you might expect to find a 1973 D penny sitting around your house or in your pocket change, don't get fooled. This isn't just a common coin. When you find a well-preserved 1973 D Lincoln cent, especially one with a minting error or unique features, the value can be astounding. In fact, the rarest examples of these coins, those with double die errors and in excellent condition, have been known to fetch as much as $90,000 at auction. Yes, you heard that right. A single 1973 D penny, once considered nothing more than pocket change, could be worth $90,000 if it's in pristine condition and has a significant minting error. It's mind-blowing to think that something so small and seemingly insignificant could be worth so much. But that's the magic of numismatics. Now, you might be wondering, how do I find a 1973 D penny that could be worth that much? The first step is to look through your change, your coin jar, or any old coin collections you might have. Look closely at any 1973 D pennies you come across, especially those that seem to be in unusually good condition. Don't just look at the face of the coin, turn it over and examine the back as well. Pay attention to the details. If the coin has the slightest hint of a doubled design or any unusual features, it could be a rare error coin. Next, make sure to get any potentially valuable coins professionally graded. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being perfect. If your 1973 D penny is in mint condition and has a significant error, it could be worth far more than you initially thought. That if you ever happen to stumble upon a 1973 D Lincoln cent with a double die error or in near perfect condition, you could be holding a coin worth $90,000, and that's no small change. So, the next time you dig through your coin collection or check your spare change, remember that those old pennies might just be hiding something incredible. A simple 1973 D penny could turn out to be much more than a relic of the past. It could be the key to your next big find. Next coin, we're talking about the 1976 Lincoln 1-cent coin. Now, if you're thinking, a 1976 penny? How valuable can that be? Hold on tight, because what you're about to learn might just surprise you. The 1976 Lincoln penny might seem like just another run-of-the-mill coin, but this particular year holds a special place in numismatic history, and it could be worth far more than just 1 cent. The year 1976 is significant in American history for a number of reasons. It marked the 200th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The country was celebrating its bicentennial, and to commemorate this milestone, the U.S. Mint issued a series of special coins and designs. In fact, the 1976 bicentennial quarter and half dollar are well known for their distinct designs, but today, we're focusing on a less celebrated coin, the 1976 Lincoln 1 cent. When it comes to the 1976 penny, most of the coins you come across will likely have a pretty standard appearance: Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the obverse, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But here's the kicker: just because a coin is common doesn't mean it's not valuable. In fact, the 1976 penny, especially the 1976 D, minted in Denver, has become quite valuable in certain circumstances. So, why is this penny considered a hidden gem in the coin world? First and foremost, it's important to remember that coin value isn't solely determined by rarity. It's a mix of factors like condition, errors, and even the specific minting process used during production. And that's where things get interesting with the 1976 Lincoln cent. In general, the 1976 pennies were minted in very large quantities. In fact, over 4.3 billion of these coins were struck by the U.S. Mint that year, making them far from rare. But what sets the 1976 penny apart is the fact that there were some minting errors that occurred during production. These errors are what make certain examples of the 1976 Lincoln cent highly sought after by collectors. One of the most common and valuable errors found in the 1976 pennies is the double die error, specifically the double die obverse. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin misaligns, creating a doubling effect on certain elements of the design. In the case of the 1976 penny, this could mean a doubled date, a doubled liberty, or even a doubling of Lincoln's features. These double die errors are among the most exciting and desirable mistakes a collector can find, and they significantly boost a coin's value. The reason these errors are so highly prized is that they make the coin unique. A coin with a double die is no longer a mass-produced, standard issue, it's a one-of-a-kind treasure that was born from a flaw in the minting process. And as any experienced collector will tell you, the rarer the error, the higher the value. But it's not just about the errors. Condition plays a huge role in determining the worth of a coin. In the case of the 1976 penny, most coins you come across will have been through years of circulation. They'll have scratches, dings, and discoloration. However, coins that are in mint state or near mint state, meaning they've been well preserved and show little to no signs of wear, are significantly more valuable. A 1976 penny that has been kept in pristine condition, free from tarnish and damage, will command a much higher price than a coin that's been bouncing around in your change jar for decades. So, what exactly are we talking about in terms of value? Let's say you have a 1976 Lincoln penny in excellent condition, or perhaps one with a double die obverse error that's clearly visible to the naked eye. If that's the case, your penny could be worth far more than you ever imagined. In fact, some of the rarest examples of this coin, especially those with significant errors and in superb condition, have been known to sell for as much as $81,000 at auctions. Yes, that's right, $81,000 for a single 1976 penny. Now, of course, not every 1976 penny will fetch that kind of money. But if you're lucky enough to find one with a noticeable error, or if it's in mint condition, you could be sitting on a small fortune. Coins like this are highly prized by collectors because they represent a unique piece of American history, and the value continues to rise as time passes. Now, let's say you're out there sifting through your collection of change, or maybe you've inherited a coin jar from a family member. How do you know if you found the goldmine? The first step is to examine the coin closely. Look for any signs of doubling, especially on the date or the inscription, Liberty. Check the details of Lincoln's portrait to see if there's any evidence of doubling. Then, examine the overall condition of the coin. If it looks like it's barely been touched or circulated, it might be worth sending to a professional coin grader for a more accurate assessment. Even if you don't find a double die error or a flawless specimen, the 1976 penny is still a great coin to have in your collection. But if you do find one of these rare treasures, make sure to hold on to it. You never know, that seemingly ordinary penny might just turn out to be worth $81,000. Now, when I say that the 1979 D Lincoln 1-cent coin is far more interesting than it seems. Stick with me, and by the end of this video, you'll be looking at that little penny in your pocket in a whole new light. Let's start with the basics. The 1979 Lincoln penny, minted in Denver, was part of the ongoing production of the popular Lincoln 1-cent series that's been circulating since 1909. These coins were produced in the billions, and 1979 was no exception. In fact, over 4 billion 1979 pennies were struck at the Denver Mint alone. So, you might be thinking, with such a high mintage, how could this coin possibly be worth much? Well, the answer lies not in the mintage numbers but in a few key factors: errors, condition, and rarity. When it comes to valuable coins, collectors are always on the lookout for those rare, one-in-a-million mistakes or coins that survived the test of time in remarkable condition. That's where the 1979 D penny comes into play. While most of these pennies from the 70s are pretty much run-of-the-mill, the 1979 D Lincoln penny has a hidden charm, thanks to a special variety and the possibility of minting errors that make it much more valuable than it seems at first glance. One of the most exciting aspects of the 1979 D Lincoln penny is the possibility of finding a double die obverse error. If you've been following the world of rare coins, you'll know that double die errors are some of the most sought-after mistakes in the industry. A double die error occurs when the die used to strike the coin is misaligned, which results in a doubled image on the coin. In the case of the 1979 D penny, this means you could find double details in the inscriptions like Liberty or In God We Trust, or even a double date. Now, why is this error so important? For one, it makes the coin unique. A typical 1979 D penny will show crisp, clean details, but a double die coin has a fascinating distortion, sometimes subtle, sometimes more pronounced, that makes it stand out from all the other pennies produced that year. It's a rare mistake, and for collectors, finding such a coin is like discovering a hidden gem. These coins are incredibly valuable because they represent a flaw in the minting process that cannot be replicated, making them much more desirable, but that's not the only thing that can make a 1979 D penny worth a fortune. The condition of the coin is also crucial. Over time, coins that were circulated through daily transactions tend to accumulate scratches, dings, and wear. The more a coin is handled, the more it loses its pristine, mint condition. However, if you happen to come across a 1979 D penny that's in near-perfect or uncirculated condition, meaning it shows little to no signs of wear, that coin is going to be worth significantly more. Coins that are in mint state condition, graded at MS65 or higher, are highly sought after by collectors and can fetch much higher prices than coins with visible wear, when you combine the rarity of the double die error with the pristine condition of the coin, you've got a recipe for a valuable collectible. But what about the standard, non-error coins? Are they worth anything at all? While a regular 1979 D penny in average circulated condition might not be worth a lot on its own, collectors are always on the lookout for coins from specific years that have survived the decades in exceptional shape. A coin from 1979 that is well preserved is still much more valuable than the same coin that's been worn down over time. So, you might be wondering, how much could one of these pennies really be worth? Well, if you're lucky enough to have a 1979 D penny with a double die obverse error, or if your coin is in exceptional mint state condition, you could be looking at a coin worth more than just a few cents. Some of these rare coins have been known to sell for tens of thousands of dollars, depending on their condition and any minting errors they might feature. Now, brace yourself, here comes the exciting part. If you happen to find a 1979 D Lincoln penny with one of these double die errors or in pristine condition, it could potentially be worth an astounding $52,000. That's right, a single penny, worth just 1 cent when it was first minted, could now be worth $52,000 if it has the right characteristics. Imagine stumbling upon a coin that could be worth such a massive amount of money simply because of a minting error or because it was carefully preserved in perfect condition. So, the next time you go through your old coin collections or check through your change jar, take a closer look at any 1979 D pennies you come across. Take a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe and examine the details. Look for any signs of doubling, especially in the date and the lettering. And, of course, pay attention to the overall condition of the coin. If it looks like it's barely been touched, or if you see those doubled images that mark it as a double die error, you might just be holding on to a rare treasure. In the world of coin collecting, value is determined by rarity, condition, and sometimes a little bit of luck. If you happen to find a 1979 D Lincoln penny with a double die error or in mint condition, you could be holding a coin worth $52,000. It's amazing to think that such a small, simple coin could hold so much value. Last unique coin, we're talking about the 1981 D Lincoln 1-cent coin, and it might be worth a whole lot more than you think. At first glance, the 1981 Lincoln penny might seem like just another run-of-the-mill cent, but don't be fooled, there's more to this coin than meets the eye. While the mintage for this coin was in the billions, and most of them were circulated into the hands of the public, there's a rare and valuable subset that has caught the attention of collectors all over the world. Before we dive into its value, let's take a moment to understand the significance of this penny. The 1981 D Lincoln 1-cent coin was minted in Denver, part of the series that has been in circulation since 1909. On the front, you'll find the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, which has graced the coin for over a century. On the reverse, the coin features the iconic Lincoln Memorial, a symbol of the nation's history and the man behind the penny's design. But what makes the 1981 D penny so special? Well, like many coins, it's not about the general mintage or the year alone. It's about the condition, the potential errors, and the rarity of specific features that make this penny highly sought after by collectors. So, let's explore why this penny is worth more than its face value and what factors could make it a true collector's item. One of the most important elements to consider when determining the value of any coin is condition. And in the world of coin collecting, this is where things can get exciting. Most 1981 D pennies you come across will show signs of wear and tear from years of circulation. Scratches, discoloration, and wear on the design are common features of coins that have been through countless hands. But here's the catch: pennies that have been kept in mint condition, with little to no signs of use, are worth significantly more. If you have a 1981 D penny that looks like it's just come off the minting press, you may have a treasure on your hands. Coins that are in mint state, which means they show no signs of wear, with sharp details and clear design elements, are considered much more valuable than those that have been used in everyday transactions. In fact, well-preserved 1981 D pennies, even without any errors, can command impressive prices simply because of their excellent condition. But there's even more to this coin than just being in great shape. Like many coins, the 1981 D Lincoln 1-cent coin can also have minting errors that add to its desirability and value. For example, there have been reports of double die errors on some 1981 D pennies. Double die errors occur when the coin is struck multiple times by the die, resulting in a doubled image. This can lead to a noticeable doubling of elements like the date or lettering on the coin, making it stand out from the rest. If you find a 1981 D penny with a double die error, you found something special. Collectors love these types of errors because they are unique, and they add an extra layer of rarity to the coin. These errors can significantly increase the coin's value, so it's always a good idea to carefully inspect your 1981 D pennies for any signs of doubling or other unusual features. The 1981 D penny is also part of a period of transition in U.S. coinage. In the early 1980s, the U.S. Mint was in the process of producing coins with different materials and designs. This period saw a shift in the production of pennies, with a reduction in the use of copper and a move toward zinc-coated steel. While this doesn't necessarily make the 1981 D penny itself rare, it does place it within a significant moment in the history of American coinage. Now, you might be asking, how much could one of these 1981 D pennies really be worth? Well, it depends on several factors, including the coin's condition, any potential minting errors, and its overall rarity. While most 1981 D pennies in average condition are worth only a few cents, a well-preserved, error-free coin can fetch significantly more. But if you happen to have one with a noticeable double die error or one that is in near-perfect, uncirculated condition, you could be sitting on a rare find. So, what's the most someone has been willing to pay for a 1981 D Lincoln penny? Believe it or not, if you have one of these rare pennies in mint condition or with a double die error, it could be worth as much as $40,000. Yes, you heard that right, $40,000 for a single penny. Imagine finding that little coin sitting in your collection or in your change jar. What seemed like just another ordinary penny could be your ticket to a small fortune. Of course, not every 1981 D penny is going to be worth tens of thousands of dollars. But for collectors and coin enthusiasts, finding a rare, well-preserved, or error-struck coin like this is the ultimate thrill. The 1981 D Lincoln penny may seem like a simple piece of American currency, but it holds the potential to be worth far more than you might expect. So, if you've got any 1981 D pennies lying around, take a closer look. Inspect the date, the lettering, and the overall condition. If you spot any unusual characteristics like doubling or see that it's in perfect condition, you might just be holding a coin that could be worth $40,000. Thanks for joining us today on this exciting coin adventure. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about rare and valuable coins, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on our latest discoveries. Drop a comment below if you've ever found a rare coin in your collection or if you have any 1981 D pennies to share. Until next time, keep collecting and keep searching, you never know what you might find.